Evening, everyone. Locked On Sooners live tonight. The Champ U BBQ in the books. Are we about to see a flurry of commitments for the Oklahoma Sooners? What's the latest out of the Champ U BBQ on tonight's episode of Locked On Sooner?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is Locked On Sooners live. So happy to be with all of you on this Monday evening. Of course, your team right here, the Oklahoma Sooners, every single day on Locked On Sooners. Tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more. FanDuel.com/Locked On. Just wanted to, off the top, breaking script a little bit here. Not on the list of show topics for today, but obviously you don't plan for something like this. Just wanted to say off the top before we get into a lot of the Oklahoma football and softball conversations that, thoughts and prayers, rest in peace to one George Frazier, who of course was the Sooner color commentary broadcaster on a lot of Oklahoma baseball broadcasts and a longtime Colorado Rockies broadcaster. Obviously was a World Series champion in 1987 with the Minnesota Twins. But a big piece of Rockies broadcasting history was one George Frazier. From 1998 until 2015, he was the Rockies color commentator, and again was a world champion with the Minnesota Twins. Was a big piece of the fabric here of late for Oklahoma baseball broadcasts alongside Toby Rowland. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I knew George Frazier personally, but I think sometimes one of the best marks about someone is how they handle folks that maybe they don't know altogether that well. And on the KREF radio side, definitely just on the behind the scenes element, got to talk to George Frazier a bit, and everything that you'll hear about George Frazier is exactly right. I mean, he was a funny, very kind, incredible man to somebody like me who, again, very, very limited interactions with George Frazier. Wouldn't claim to know him personally, but on the radio production board side, George Frazier was just an incredible, incredible man. And again, is a gigantic loss for Sooner Nation and for the Sooner State. So just wanted to say George Frazier to, for George Frazier and for his family and his loved ones, rest in peace. Incredible, incredible man. The Champ U BBQ. Let's start there, right? What do we know coming out of the Champ U BBQ? Well, here's what we do know. And it was a lot of what John and myself discussed. A lot of what John and myself discussed coming out of the Champ U BBQ. Good news on the recruiting predictions front for a pair of running backs, Caden Durham and for Xavier Robinson. And the thing that I think you like as an Oklahoma fan there is different styles, different body type runners for Oklahoma in the 2024 class. Caden Durham, well, that's a 5'9", 180 pound running back out of Duncanville down in Texas. Regarded as a blue chip guy. Oklahoma in that recruitment going up against the likes of Texas A&M and Alabama and LSU, among others, but those would be the principal suitors, as it were, for one Caden Durham. He was, of course, a part of that Champ U BBQ visitor list this past weekend. So recruiting predictions flipping, coming in for Oklahoma for Caden Durham. That's part one of the positive news for Oklahoma out of the Champ U BBQ. And again, a different style runner, Xavier Robinson, who has eclipsed the 2,000 plus yardage mark with Carl Albert. All sorts of rushing yards for Xavier Robinson. And again, said different types of runners, different body types for Caden Durham and Xavier Robinson. He is what you would say a big body in the backfield potentially going forward for Oklahoma. 6'2", 220 is what he's listed. 24/7 Sports is a 3-star prospect, and I'm sure things go well this season and into when you head into the December early signing period. Maybe maybe could approach that 4-star status. We'll see. 759 nationally for Robinson in the 24/7 Sports Composite, rated as the 58th running back nationally in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, number 5 player in the state of Oklahoma. So that doesn't necessarily scream that Xavier Robinson will wind up on that 4-star line, but it sounds like Oklahoma might be getting their running back work in and done fairly swiftly. Perhaps now coming out of this Champ U BBQ, you look at some of the tea leaves elsewhere. Just while we're talking running backs, I know I see from Kinney. What about Taylor Tatum? Well, the news on Taylor Tatum, at least the most recent news, a couple of recruiting predictions at least from what I was looking at on 24/7 Sports, that favors Tatum to USC. So I wouldn't get panicky about that. Obviously, Taylor Tatum's a very talented running back in his own regard and a blue chip guy. And maybe there's some fans that would say they like Tatum better or equal to either a Caden Durham or a Xavier Robinson. Bottom line for me is you see those tea leaves where a bunch of recruiting predictions are coming in favor of Oklahoma for both Durham and Robinson, and then you start seeing those predictions shift away for Tatum to USC. To me, John and I, we kicked it around. We said, okay, could this be a signing class for Oklahoma where they wind up with 3 running backs in it? You want to say yes, but at the end of the day, you look at the situation, you take stock of what's going on with Oklahoma. Running back, as far as I'm concerned, you just think about every single position group at OU. Quarterback, feel really good about the here and now at quarterback for Oklahoma with Dylan Gabriel, with obviously a 5-star in Jackson Arnold, with Hawkins coming in and Kevin Sperry coming in, who we'll talk about in just a moment in the 2025 class. That would be one of the first position groups at OU you feel really good about. I feel like defensive backfield, safety, corner we'll see, but safety with Bowen and with Pearson, at least in the here and now, and with Bowman, that has kind of pretty swiftly, I think, morphed itself into one of Oklahoma's best position groups. But linebacker, that would be another group with Kanik and with Stutzman and with what they're doing on the recruiting trail. I think linebackers really, really good for Oklahoma, but running back has to be one of the best position groups right now for Oklahoma, no doubt. When you think about obviously Barnes and Sawchuk, and you got Smothers, and you've got Caleb Hicks, and now again, recruiting predictions are not commitments, but we've seen over the last couple of years, even predating Brent Venables and this staff, the Champ U BBQ, this is a lot of times where Oklahoma in these summer months makes its hay, and definitely, with this coaching staff in place now, with Brent Venables, with DeMarco Murray, if you start seeing some of those predictions coming out of the Champ U BBQ in favor of Oklahoma, you don't want to say it's completely imminent, but it feels like, we're starting to feel pretty good about both Caden Durham and Xavier Robinson being eventually running back commits in this class. So again, you'd love to have all 3. I'm not saying you wouldn't with a Taylor Tatum alongside Caden Durham and Xavier Robinson, but the bottom line is there's already a bunch of talented running backs in Norman, Oklahoma, and it sounds like maybe these 2, it definitely looks like these 2 are heavily trending to OU. So that's positive news there. The other big piece of news for Oklahoma from the Champ U BBQ in terms of the recruiting predictions in favor of Oklahoma was Michael Patterson McDonald, who John and I kicked it around last night. Michael Patterson McDonald, I think, is somebody that it's going to be fun to see what the final year of his evaluation looks like from a national standpoint. I believe it's Rivals that has Michael Patterson McDonald rated very, very highly. He's a 4-star over there. You look other places, 24/7 Sports, I don't know that they have him ranked right now, but obviously has drawn some serious interest from UNLV and from Houston and from Indiana, and the recruiting prediction in here for a Westmore product that really likes to get downhill. I said it on our last show. Michael Patterson McDonald, to me, just looks like the prototypical, okay, Brent Venables can have you in the backfield running and covering folks, but also coming downhill in some blitz packages. So I really like the tape that I've seen from Michael Patterson McDonald. The again, in addition to, I guess, if you want to say the Taylor Tatum news, which maybe isn't great, obviously, if that's the running back prospect in this class that you were dead set on, hopefully arriving at Oklahoma, that would be one of the names that was at the Champ U BBQ that all of a sudden we're seeing those recruiting predictions shifted elsewhere. In the case of Tatum, obviously, again, it's USC. Jimmy, there's a lot of people that like Tatum's possibility in baseball. I've heard Tatum might get drafted pretty high in baseball. The other name that we know that Oklahoma has been linked to and you're hopeful for and trending anybody along the defensive line in this class for the Sooners. One of those names, Champ U BBQ attendee, Joseph Jonah Ajonye. And at least there's one prediction out there that has Joseph Jonah Ajonye coming out of this thing trending toward Georgia. Another prediction put in for Joseph Jonah Ajonye to Georgia. So that would be the couple of not so great pieces of news for Oklahoma on the recruiting side. But the reality, we've heard Brian Smith say it, recruiting director for us, or recruiting expert right here on the Locked On Network. And I'm sure Parker Thune and McQuistion and Colin Kennedy, a lot of those guys that are the experts on the recruiting sphere in our neck of the woods for Oklahoma, they would tell you you're just not going to land every defensive line target. So if you told me right now that David Stone, Nigel Smith, and a couple others trend Oklahoma's direction and sign with Oklahoma, Wanarian Stone's a great place to start if you end up with just that. So disappointing news for Joseph Jonah Ajonye, at least what one individual out there says is trending away from Oklahoma. And then I guess to compliment sandwich this thing with the recruiting predictions that were positive for OU with Caden Durham and Xavier Robinson and Michael Patterson McDonald, there's also a series of predictions coming in for Oklahoma in the way of another Champ U BBQ attendee out of North Carolina. That's Cornelius, North Carolina. James Nesta, the name that feels like maybe lately has kind of hopped on the radar for OU. I don't know that this is a name, at least John and I have talked a ton about, but now all of a sudden there's a series of predictions coming in for Oklahoma, 3 of those, in fact. And I always look at it for OU and say, love Colin Kennedy, love Parker Thune, love Josh McQuistion, trust all of those guys and think that they do a tremendous job. But to me, when it's more than just the local OU guys, that maybe at times a coach that you have a good relationship, the bottom line is at times everybody gets fooled a little bit in recruiting. So I guess what I'm saying is when you've got inside the U, or a reporter over there that's crystal balling to Oklahoma, when you've got the director of football recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, crystal balling James Nesta to Oklahoma, that to me is a terrific sign in concert, in conjunction with a crystal ball prediction for Colin Kennedy. So that to me that's good news defensively for Oklahoma. So who is James Nesta again? Well, he is, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, again, out of North Carolina, William Amos High School in North Carolina, top 400, top 375 player nationally. He's a blue chipper, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, number 33 linebacker, number 12 player from North Carolina. And his numbers from last season, they're not super eye-popping just yet, but as Jimmy says, Nesta's a good-looking linebacker. You flip on the tape, and yeah, Nesta is a talented football player that can fly around, gets downhill in a hurry. I don't know what the 40 time is for Nesta, but he looks really quick when you put on the tape. And again, the stats from last year, not super eye-popping. He finished his junior season, if this is correct, what I'm looking at on 24/7 Sports, finished his junior year with 41 tackles. The TFL numbers, now this is good. 13 TFLs, sack numbers, really, really good. 9 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery touchdown Again, though, I mean, sometimes high school recruits, you see crazy TFL numbers, approaching or into the 20s, or sack numbers that are double figures, and that tackles number a little bit surprising that maybe it's just at 41. But you flip on the tape and you can see why Nesta is a blue chip prospect. So that's sort of some of the positives coming out of the Champ U BBQ, and of course the what's going to happen with David Stone, right? I mean, I think that is the recruitment that everybody is pretty interested in. I told John last night that, to me, if we can, as closely or as much as we can, read into the impressions that you get from a photo op, from the videos that get shared out, not totally going to get head over heels. But I did see in David Stone someone that, to me, looked like he's very, very comfortable in Norman, Oklahoma, seems to really like the other folks that were on campus visiting for the Champ U BBQ in Oklahoma. So, again, looks like Oklahoma's the leader. I know that there's an official visit for Stone now coming up to Michigan State. That's, of course, newsworthy. It's noteworthy because of the relationship, the long-standing relationship there on both ends of the equation. We'll see what happens, right? I mean, that is going to be something that you couldn't with a straight face say that to some degree it's not a little bit alarming, but that's the nature of recruiting, right? These guys are going to take official visits. They're going to check everything out. And if I can play the glass half full with David Stone, you see the official visit come down to Michigan State, and it comes off of what, by all accounts, looked like a very, very positive experience at the Champ U BBQ. And my hope would be this is the final scratch Michigan State off the list. We saw, I mean, you look at some of these names we're talking about that now all of a sudden are getting recruiting predictions elsewhere. In the case of, say, a Joseph Jonah Ajonye, defensive line target that Oklahoma has been heavily in the mix for. That happens, right? You get some folks that come to a Champ U BBQ visit and they're around all these other talented players. And for whatever reason, they find out on the visit, you know what? Yeah, Oklahoma's not the place for me. Taylor Tatum, maybe that was the case, or maybe that's a product of two other really talented running backs in Durham and Robinson that appear to be heading Oklahoma's direction, and what you already have at running back. Long-winded way to say, let's hope that's going to be the case with David Stone, right? Let's hope that here shortly with the Michigan State visit, you can cross one name off the list, and that'll be one more positive piece of news on the Oklahoma front. Tonight's episode of Locked On Sooners Live, as always, as we got to tell you a little bit about some of the Kevin Sperry news that is out there. Would love for you guys to just blow up the chat over there. I see we've got a nice little number of folks here on the YouTube side with us live right now, Locked On Sooners Live. So send some of your questions in. What are your thoughts? What are your concerns coming out of the barbecue? Oklahoma football, the SEC schedules. Want to get some of your thoughts on that. Oklahoma softball, of course, a massive mega shockwave week last week. Sounds like there could be some good news on the horizon. There's a interesting transfer portal entry today that it's not the name from Stanford that I think some were hoping would be coming to Oklahoma, but maybe there's a name from Stanford that folks should familiarize themselves with very, very quickly that probably you already know about. But tonight's episode, as always, brought to us by FanDuel, America's number one sports book, where you can make every moment more over there at FanDuel.com/locked on. It's baseball season in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. Again, America's number one sports book. Right now, new customers, a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go on over to FanDuel.com/locked on to join today. Don't miss your chance, again, to snag that no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. One final time, FanDuel.com/locked on to sign up. And though unfortunately, I can pretty safely report there's not going to be an Oklahoma Sooner coming off the board in this 2023 NBA draft's first round sneaking up on us this week. There's plenty of coverage, and you might, if you're an Oklahoma City Thunder fan or any fan of somebody in the NBA, probably a lot of our fans right here on the Locked On Sooners channel, probably many of you are Mavericks fans, et cetera, et cetera. How about you check out Locked On's NBA mock draft special? It's here, it's bigger, it's better than ever before. Follow along the entire first round in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience. Only Locked On can deliver. All episodes available now on Locked On NBA Big Board, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Kevin Sperry, we've got some good news on this front. I know that it's down the pipeline here. But Kevin Sperry, the report today that came out is that Kevin Sperry will be moving to the Sooner State, which you probably, as well as I, know that in the world of recruiting, that's a pretty good sign that this is, and we thought so, just based on the way that Kevin Sperry sounded when he joined this program here on Locked On Sooners. You can go back and find that episode where he talks about his commitment to Oklahoma. Sounded like somebody that even from the first moment he started talking to Jeff Lebby and OU, it didn't take very long to have the mind made up. And now obviously going to be playing the final 2 years of his high school career right here in Oklahoma City at Carl Albert. So credit, by the way, to Sooner Scoop, who was the first to report that news. I would say, just in terms of, you start projecting forward for Oklahoma, the quality of football we know is very, very good in the state of Texas. I don't like to just all the time toss out a bunch of compliments to the state of Texas, but hey, quality of high school football typically is pretty good. But you go from a Rock Hill team that was just 3-7 compared to a Carl Albert program that wins championship after championship and plays for championship after championship. I kind of like that dynamic of this for Oklahoma as we, project down the road for one Kevin Sperry. I could see him fitting in well with Carl Albert in the sense that, historically, a lot of the Carl Albert quarterbacks, it seems like, boy, they can run the read option game a little bit. They've got terrific feet. And, oh, by the way, he's going to add a dimension that at times I don't know that Carl Albert has always had, with just that rocket, that cannon of an arm that Kevin Sperry has. 12-2 last season for the Titans. So I like the fact that he's going to go be a part of a winner for the last couple of years of high school football. Let's see. What are some of the thoughts that you guys have out there? Nesta, good-looking linebacker. Fatty 71. Nesta is 6'5". Yeah, James Nesta is a big boy. Depending on the heights and weights, sometimes before you get somebody officially signed and on campus, it's like, okay, are they 6'4"? Are they 6'5"? Are they 205? Are they 215? It's tough to kind of know all of that information sometimes until folks actually arrive. But the bottom line is James Nesta, he looks the part. He looks the part of a Brent Venables linebacker going forward. You flip on that tape. I would encourage Oklahoma fans to do just that. It's pretty exciting to see the possibility of who James Nesta could be. And don't overlook the fact that in this recruitment, it looks like Oklahoma, if this prediction is right for Nesta, I mean, you're winning out over North Carolina, the flagship program there, and you're winning out over Miami, which that's a big recruitment. A couple of programs that it's good to win out on over in the state of North Carolina for a prospect out there. Williams Nwaneri, yeah. What is the latest to report with Williams Nwaneri? I don't know that there's a ton new necessarily on the Williams Nwaneri front. At least last time I checked before starting the Locked On Sooners live here with you tonight. Still think Oklahoma's in a good spot. Obviously going through a big month of visits, and then you've got the visit to Oregon in season for Williams Nwaneri. It's a massive prospect in this class for Oklahoma. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again and again and again. To me, in so many ways, this class for Oklahoma, regardless of what you do, Nesta, there's a bunch of prospects that we feel good about. And, you're off to a nice start with names like Zion Kearney and Jaden Hardy. And I really like Newcomb, and Hawkins, of course, is potentially one of your quarterbacks of the future. Good little start with Isaiah Autry on the offensive line. I'd like to tap into some sources this week too and find out, okay, there were some important offensive line prospects in Norman at the Champ U BBQ. Haven't really heard a ton yet on that front. Be honest with you, I haven't done a ton of digging on it. So be curious to know what type of headway Oklahoma made there. But you're off to a good start kind of across the board in this class. KJ Daniels is a speedster wide receiver that we really, really like. But it's going to come down, right? The way that this class in a lot of ways probably is remembered is, do you win the David Stone recruitment and the Williams Nwaneri recruitment? If you get those two and, whatever Oklahoma does the rest of the way, I have complete confidence that this staff, just based on the way that Brent Venables and company, that opening month and a half, 2 months that Venables and he's assembling the staff and putting things together. And hey, tip of the cap to Cale Gundy and company that did a good job keeping that 2022 class together. But Brent Venables and this group have shown, I say it, they're closers. They were closers in 22. They were closers in 23. I've got no doubt there's no panic yet for me. I'm expecting commitments to start dropping here quickly over the next couple of weeks and months. But Oklahoma's going to be closers in this class. And you just hope along the way, and once we get to the finish line, closers means that you're going to be closers with both David Stone and Williams Nwaneri. It's just, as we start thinking about Oklahoma making the jump to the SEC, they need those guys. Need to do some digging. Just being honest, Kenny wants to know Dominique McKinley. The buzz there was positive. I don't know that you come out of this weekend and say that Oklahoma made all this type of a leap to where all of a sudden they're the leader for McKinley. That wasn't necessarily a recruitment that they were thought to be the leader for. But hey, you get that type of name on campus around the other guys that were here this past weekend for Oklahoma, and you got a chance to wow some folks. So I haven't heard anything negative on that. I haven't heard anything in the way of now all of a sudden Oklahoma is the leader on it. So we'll continue to monitor. We'll do some diving as this week goes along and pass on what we find out on it. Yeah, Samaj Jones, another name that was here for Oklahoma for the Champ U BBQ. So, a bunch of names to talk about on Locked On Sooners, and John and I will do that as the week rolls along. But the big positive news that we can definitely report is the recruiting predictions that you've got for Nesta, that you've got for Durham, that you've got for Robinson, that you've got for Michael Patterson, McDonald. And I will do some digging this week for you guys to find out what we can pass along on just that full list of names that was at the Champ U BBQ. The SEC schedules, I said this, Jimmy, while you ask, Okoye, I think Oklahoma's made up a ton of ground recently with Okoye, no doubt. Heavy player. I think that Oklahoma's in a much, much better spot than where we were several weeks ago, a month ago. I think you got a very, very legitimate chance right there. The SEC schedules. What did all of you think of what Oklahoma got in the 2024 slate? I said it the other day, and I don't know that I said it on the radio side, 94.7 the Ref, 99.3 FM, 1400 AM, the Ref in Norman and Oklahoma City. And if you download the KREF app, you can listen to myself and Chris Plank from 9 to noon and everybody on the Ref network worldwide for free, that KREF app. I said it over there, and I don't know if I said it here with John, but it's easy to get focused on the SEC schedule, and I love the slate that Oklahoma got. I think it's very, very exciting that Oklahoma fans, to me, you get what you wanted, right? This is what we wanted. We wanted Alabama in Norman. We wanted LSU in Norman. We want Georgia in Norman, on and on and on. You catch my drift. Tennessee in Norman, I think, is obviously a very tasty matchup with the Heupel angle there. South Carolina with Beamer is pretty intriguing. The trip to Death Valley, I'm convinced. I don't know how it could be anything other than a nighttime kickoff primetime there. This is what we signed up for, right? So the mindset of a Colin Cowherd or some of the other folks out there, I just don't subscribe to any of it, in part because of some of the things that we're talking about with the Champ U BBQ and with this past signing class. Don't listen to anybody tell you that Oklahoma is about to beat Nebraska. First off, Oklahoma's had one bad season in the past quarter century. Nebraska had more than a couple bad seasons before it shipped off to the Big Ten. I know the end of their Big 12 stay, you'd kind of righted yourself just a little bit if you were Nebraska, but you think back and living that from the Callahan years and Pelini, it wasn't, Pelini probably got a little bit of a bad rap, sure, at Nebraska. And, in some ways they're still reeling from the decision to go away from Pelini. But let's not act like Ndamukong Suh and Jared Crick. Let's not act like that was happening every season for Nebraska in the Big 12 when they left the Big 12. That was the exception to the norm when Nebraska left the Big 12. So Oklahoma, until proven otherwise in 2023, to me, in a much, much different spot than Nebraska. So I say I welcome the challenge of the SEC. When the Peach Bowl went final versus LSU, to me, I said it that night, and Tyler McComas at the ref could corroborate said tale. I said I didn't think Oklahoma would win a national championship until it joined the SEC. Lo and behold, we get a couple of years, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, by the way. We got one year on the calendar for that statement to be proven incorrect. And I would love to be proven incorrect that Oklahoma's not winning a national championship until they get into the SEC. But to me, the writing was on the wall on this thing that nationally, Oklahoma's just got to get in there and play with these guys on a regular basis and know that when they suit up and they lace it up in the college football playoff and on those types of stages, that they're prepared to go win those games, whether it be in Ohio State across the ledger or Michigan or a Clemson or dare I say the dirty word, a USC with a Lincoln Riley down the road. Oklahoma will be positioned to go win those games because of this move to the SEC. And that being said, we can't forget, this is what I said on the radio side to bring this long-winded thought full circle here. We can't lose sight of 2023. I think this is an incredibly important season for Oklahoma as we build toward 2024. And whether it was a texter or a caller, I don't know if it was Travis Davidson, who it was on the radio side, that brought up is 2023 all about the jump to the SEC or not? And to me, it's not. Obviously, we're going to feel much, much more comfortable making the leap into the SEC if Oklahoma is Oklahoma in 2023. If Dylan Gabriel can leave Norman as a Big 12 champion, and if Oklahoma can be in that college football playoff mix, and most importantly of all, if what Kenny's talking about previous appearances, the defense for Oklahoma was not good that year, and we know Oklahoma's defense was not good last year. So if Oklahoma can show us that this season, we're going to be feeling a lot better about the prospects of this SEC schedule. But my charge to Oklahoma fans would be, don't be nervous about the Alabamas or the LSUs or the Tennessees of the world. I think most Oklahoma fans aren't. I don't get the vibe that they are. I get the vibe that the national media, everybody wants Oklahoma to be scared of this. Have you noticed that? Big 12 fans want Oklahoma fans to believe, oh, this is the biggest mistake Oklahoma's ever made. Congratulations on 7-5 and 8-4 for the rest of your days. Shehan Jayaraja talking about Brent Venables last week. Well, why would you want to put out there that 10 wins is the expectation for this season? Because it's Oklahoma football, Shehan. This is the expectation for Oklahoma every single season. Right to your point, Jimmy, BV sure is confident about us having a good year. 1,000%. That was one of my takeaways from BV putting that comment out into the atmosphere there. He knows that this team has the potential to be better. And he said it's got to be defense. Fatty 71. If we get pressure up front, we're going to be strong. I thought for me, the comment from Brent Venables about if the defense is improved, we've got the possibility to go win 10 games. It also, I think, shared a little bit of confidence in Oklahoma's. Well, I was one of the hit the panic button a little bit, not a lot of it, but a little bit coming out of the spring game with Oklahoma's offensive line. And I think that was Brent Venables saying, you know what? If we are improved defensively, we're more than good enough. We're more than capable enough offensively for anybody. And it's reasonable too right? I mean, look at what you're replacing across the offensive line. You're replacing NFL guys, at both of the tackles, and you're replacing Murray as well up front. So you're replacing a lot along the offensive line. We know, of course, about Marvin Mims. There's questions with the skill guys. One of my benchmark takes has been, let me see that Oklahoma genuinely has some struggles with skill position guys before I believe that Oklahoma has some genuine struggles with skill position guys. I know that we need names to emerge. I know that we got to see it to believe it, with a Nick Anderson, with a Jaden Gibson, on and on and on. Some transfer portal additions, Andrew Anthony, you name it, right? Names that were on campus last season. LV Bunkley Shelton, can he take a big step? What about a Hester? I mean, either of those guys, can they? Jalil Farouk is supposed to be this number one. Can he be the number one? So I got it. But I get the impression that Brent Venables is much less concerned about that than he is the defensive side of the football. And he knows that if they go on a Clemson-like trajectory, and what do I mean by that? I mean, Brent Venables, when he was the defensive coordinator, you look at the statistics from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and going off of memory and not off anything in the way of factual numbers directly in front of me. Year 1, very mediocre at Clemson. Year 2, signs of improvement. Year 3, Clemson was like the nation's number 1 defense collectively. So we need year 2 to reflect that type of growth at Oklahoma. And obviously they're counting upon some transfer portal additions, but it has to be in-house too. I think for you, for me, for everybody to feel good about this jump to the SEC and feeling like you can handle that schedule now and going forward. And oh, by the way, again, I think 23 is important. The here and now is important for us to feel like Oklahoma's on the right path and ready to handle that. Then the Danny Stutzmans of the world needs to take another step. A Big 12 leader in tacklers. We need to see the TFLs uptick a little bit. Money downs, third down. Go make me a play, Danny. Go make me a play. Whether it's Kanik or it's a Dasan McCullough. Okay. Well, McCullough wouldn't be, I mean, that's a transfer portal addition, so that wouldn't necessarily be your in-house. But what about an Ethan Downs? What about a Grimes, who I know some are ready to move on from, and now it's transfer portal additions out on the edge? What about an R. Mason Thomas? I need to see names that were here last year show legitimate growth defensively for Oklahoma. And if that happens and it coincides with Oklahoma being back in the mix for a Big 12 championship, I think they're going to be guys back in the mix for a Big 12 championship. I just think the schedule sets up that way. I think Oklahoma's too talented not to be, until for 2 years in a row proven otherwise. I think Oklahoma's going to rise to the expectations. I genuinely believe that. And I agree with this assessment too. And even if it's not flips, the general idea of this thought from Kenny in the chat, if we have a good 2023, I see some flips in our forecast for 2024. Yeah, let's hope so, right? So some of these big names out there, or just locking down the key targets, key potential signees that we've spent, weeks, months talking about, the David Stones, Williams, Wineries of the world. That's been, again, something that it's hard for me to not feel that way about Oklahoma a little bit. I'm not going to count Miguel Chavis, and I know some are down. I'm not going to totally count out a Todd Bates or a Brent Venables or DeMarco Murray, who's just one of the best running back recruiters in America now. I'm not going to count out, up and down the board, just anybody recruiting for Oklahoma to be able to go close some things down. But it would help, right? If you could, even a bad season, because of what this staff has done last year, sure, is it possible for them to go land a top 5, top 10 class on the merits of, we've got this thing heading in a certain direction, or a top 10 class because we've got this heading in a certain direction, and look at this excitement about the SEC? I would never put it past this staff. But man, like you probably out there on Locked On Sooners, you probably, like me, would feel a heck of a lot more confident if you're trying to make recruiting pitches in correspondence with Oklahoma going and winning double-figure games against a schedule that, I mean, let's just call it what it is. There's nothing of note in the non-conference portion. You don't go to Manhattan. Baylor, I think, has a chance to be an off one year, back on this year type candidate team. There's no Baylor. So there's a lot about this schedule that just sets up for you to go take care of business and win 10 games. So probably you do, to a certain degree on the recruiting front, need to do that. The SEC schedule, haven't seen a lot of folks in there sharing your thoughts. I mean, what do you think about the schedule that we saw? Larry says 2023 is all about showing future recruits that Oklahoma is not what was on the field last year. Progress, right? I mean, that I think was one of the key buzzwords we had for last season. We wanted to see that there was progress defensively, namely for Oklahoma. And the scary thing was really we saw a step the other direction. So now that's got to be the big thing, right? This is, I'll put it up there one more time. 2023, it's all about showing future recruits. Oklahoma, not what was on the field last year. That defensively, there's been some massive, massive jumps forward. It's got to be the case. Got to be the case for Oklahoma. Just in closing here, because obviously solo dolo tonight, riding solo, minus one John Williams. He'll be, I think he's back next week for the live show, but if he's not, he's which, by the way, I should have said this as well off the top. Happy anniversary, John. Happy anniversary to your lovely wife. Congratulations to you both. Every year that goes by as an anniversary is one heck of an accomplishment. So congratulations to you both. And I miss you tonight, but you'll be back very, very shortly. He's got a vacation coming up in the next couple of weeks too. So you're going to be getting a lot of Josh Helmer on Locked On Sooners. In closing, unless you guys have some questions and thoughts you want to toss my direction, Oklahoma softball, an update there. The big news, the big softball news today, did you see who entered the transfer portal? One name, and no, it's not Nigel Kennedy, though I know a lot of you would like it to be Nigel Kennedy. But could I interest you in one Elena Votter to the University of Oklahoma before this transfer portal cycle is all said and done? Stanford All-American pitcher Elena Votter has entered the transfer portal and has reportedly made a decision on her future. We'll see if that decision could be Oklahoma. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, until I see that you're going somewhere other than Oklahoma, and there's an obvious need for OU given the Jordy Ball fallout at OU. Come on down, Elena Votter. You can come win a championship with Oklahoma. Superstar type talent that would really stabilize things. Not that you're in a bad place at all. If you're Oklahoma softball, you're in a great place with Nicole May and what she did last season, and Kirsten Deal will just continue to get better and better and better. And she was a top-rated recruit for a reason. So you've got something that's proven gold in the circle in Nicole May. You've got what could be a superstar in the making in Kirsten Deal. And you've got S. Shea Guerin, who we can't forget about. The development there will be potentially very important for Oklahoma softball entering 2024. But if you're telling me Elena Votter, a chance, 3-time All-Pac-12 honoree, career numbers that look like 1.75 ERA, 77 wins, a 220 opponent batting average against, and I don't know, 527 strikeouts. Yeah, that would be great to add to the Oklahoma staff. 1.81 ERA, 21-8 record in 40 appearances, 27 starts, by the way, in the 2023 season. And was good, right? Was good against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series, which that's where you earn a lot of respect from Sooner fans, is how do you match up versus this Oklahoma lineup. And she did a serviceable, more than serviceable job, held her own, and was really, really good, incredible versus Alabama. 5 1/3 shutout innings there. So that's a name to watch on the softball front. I continue to hear a little bit of buzz on Kern to Oklahoma. I know there's nothing in the way of anything being officially official, but it sounds like that could be a possibility here in the near future out of the transfer portal. I know a lot of folks have had that name, and I don't know if it's a Vodder, if it's a Kern transferring to Oklahoma. I don't know if that's it. I think that maybe there could be another name still out there for Oklahoma. So that's just a little bit of what is out there on the news and notes side. And then with Kern, sort of what a little bit of the intel, some of the buzz you hear out there sounds like. That's going to do it, though. I hope you guys enjoyed this version of Locked On Sooners Live. A little bit different version of Locked On Sooners, obviously. I know a bunch of you, hey, thanks for showing up tonight in the chat. Appreciate your comments as always. Every Monday night, right here, Locked On Sooners Live, 9 o'clock. Pencil it into your calendar. Don't forget about it. OU football, OU football, OU football all the time. But appreciate you guys for swinging by as always. Locked On Sooners, your team every single day right here. This is one of your one-stop shops for Sooner fans. So thank you, everybody, for swinging by. Had a fun time. We'll have, I'm sure, a bunch to talk about next week. I'm hoping we're going to have some commitments between now and then. I think you're going to have at least one, just based on the tea leaves that are out there, some of the recruiting predictions. Feels like we're going to have at least one, but we'll see. We'll see if indeed we have a commitment between now and then. But if we don't, nobody hit that panic button totally. Yeah, we'll keep you covered right here on Locked On Sooners. Until next time, thanks for swinging by, everybody. We'll do it all over again, where we're going to keep talking some of the fallout from this Champ U BBQ and more right here on Locked On Sooners. Boomers Sooner, everybody.